Imagine you're walking down the road and out of nowhere you hear the sounds of dogs barking. Like a lot of dogs barking. From a house that seems to be a little bit out the way. You walk around back to see what's going on because it sounds like chaos. What kind of emotions would you feel if you saw 30 to 40 animals locked up in cages all together with hardly any shelter from the heat, any water or food, and in questionable health? Would you just walk away, or would you consider calling the authorities? This is the unfortunate reality for animals grown in a mill. A staggering 2.4 million puppies are purchased from mills each year. In the United States alone, hundreds of thousands of adoptable dogs and cats are euthanized because too few people adopt from shelters. Because space is limited within the shelters, staff members too frequently are required to decide which animal will be euthanized. By adopting from a humane society or private animal shelter or rescue group, you will help save the lives of animals. When you adopt from a rescue or a shelter, you know you will get medically cleared animals for much less money. A common thought is that the animals in these shelters are just dropped off and left in cages until someone else picks them up, leaving you to deal with all the health problems. These facilities make sure the animals are well taken care of and are free of many common problems such as fleas, parvo, or heartworms. Another misconception is that the animals will not behave once they go to your home. Some rescue groups use foster owners to see how the animals rescued behave in typical family environments. This really helps since you never know how the poor treatment the animals previously received have affected them long term. They may find that the animal does not do well with certain types of people. I have personally seen dogs that just don't do well with men or women or children, and that's very important to know if you have a family you're planning on adopting. If you have other pets in your house, the foster would be able to tell you if they do well around with certain animals, certain size of animals, or number of animals, which is also a very great thing to know. This is not something offered from a mill, and many of the stores that purchase from these mills may not do a thorough health check. According to the CDC, from 2016 to 2018, there was an outbreak of Campylobacter jejuni, with about 30 people getting infected. Now, this isn't a very fatal thing, but it does cause diarrhea-like symptoms. The CDC's investigation concluded that 21 of the 30 cases originated from one company's pet store. What is surprising is, for the lack of health care they receive, these places still charge a premium much higher than you'll find at a rescue or shelter. Just walking around various stores, I've seen prices ranging from $80 for small animals to thousands for specific types of breeds. Keep in mind that the stores most likely got it from a mill, so they're only going off the word of a mill breeder, and some of these people, quite frankly, aren't very honest. At a rescue or shelter, you will only have to cover the cost that they provided for care and typically a small donation. These can go from $100 to about $500, and you know the animals have the basics in medical care covered. Unfortunately, in many shelters, if animals are unable to be adopted, they will eventually be euthanized. Last year, 733,000 pets were euthanized. While there were some that were put down due to medical issues and age, many are put down, unfortunately, due to overcrowding. These shelters have to put a time limit on how long they're able to keep certain animals because of this. On top of that, only about 10% of the animals in shelters are neutered, leading to more overpopulation, and which eventually leads to more euthanizations. In case you do not know, euthanizing is typically a peaceful way for an animal to die. Usually they're injected with sodium pentobarbital. However, some shelters have been found to use inhumane methods, such as gassing or just shooting them. These are much more painful and slower ways to get rid of these animals, and even if it's just a bullet, because it may not actually go in the right area. And unfortunately, other animals might be able to hear or even see these animals going through this, suffering like this, and they actually have to watch it, and it's definitely going to affect them. We're just like people, very psychological damage. There are no kill shelters that end up only killing animals when it's medically necessary, and unfortunately those can get quickly overcrowded if animals aren't being adopted. When you get a pet from a shelter, you're more likely to get a healthy pet versus a mill. This is because mills are almost never run ethically. If you're unaware what a mill is, they're basically factories where specific types of animals are bred non-stop, taken from their parents, then stuffed into a waiting area until they are sold. Many of these places are put together and ran without any care for the animals that live in them. From fenced-in cages with anywhere from 20 to 40 animals in one area to actual just tote bins full of small animals such as reptiles, lizards, just waiting to be sold. One might feel sick to their stomach just looking at them. All the animals have to eat together, so it's very unlikely that the smaller animals are getting just as much food as the bigger ones, which will lead to malnutrition and eventually death for that animal. And you can imagine these animals living together in the same area all day and leave some pretty nasty messes that they pretty much just have to live in. These animals can develop psychological damage from their time in a mill, which a family would have to deal with once they brought her home. Not very fair for anyone involved. Adopting from a humane society or a rescue group is beneficial for the animal over versus a mill. It really makes an impact on the adoption industry when you fight against the mill market by adopting from a shelter or a rescue. You're helping a group that really care about the welfare of the animals. Not that I think the people who work at pet stores don't care, but the people who put the effort into running shelters or rescues are probably volunteering or have a desire to get into a career field that involves helping animals. You're also taking profits away from the mills and freeing up space in shelters, which lower kill rates. The next time you want to get a new pet, instead of going to your nearest pet shop, go check out your nearest shelters. If those do not have anything that appeal to you, you can always look online for rescue organizations. You may have to do a little extra work, but I think the time is well spent to make sure you get a best friend for you and your family. I got my little girl here, Sophie. Excuse me. Go. From Pug Rescue of Florida. She was actually raised in a mill, and somebody took the time to report them to the authorities, and all of them actually ended up getting rescued. So if it wasn't for people who take in these animals, shelter them, rescue them, and foster them, I'd never have my little Sophie here. Think about that next time, and thank you.